Ciao, jewelry making friends. My name is Joey Balistreri for those of you who are new to my channel and don't know me yet. And if you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And for my regular viewers, I'm glad you're here too. The deliciousness that you see on my work table is 4 projects with my absolute favorite items from the February bargain bead box called Budding Romance. I am so in love with this box. The colors are just me. I love these rich raspberry berry tones. There were some lavender beads, and I've done another project already, and I can link that video below. And so what I'm using here are, for my necklace project, I'm using these Malaysia jade dyed quartz. Malaysia jade is the industry name for the dyed quartz, and these, I've made these little components using that same Malaysia jade, but these were quite beautiful. They are a satin matte finish. They're not polished to a high shine, and I just love those. I love the facets on these. And speaking of facets, let me just show you this little strand. For those of you that don't get this box or haven't received yours, we got an entire strand of these micro faceted garnets. I wanted to say ruby, but they're garnets. And we got a 15-inch strand of this bead. And I mean, they are amazing. I don't know if the camera is picking up. The faceting is stunning on these beads and the rich color, and they just sparkle like crazy. So I had to use those. So I have 4 projects here. 2 of them are earring projects. One of them is a bracelet project and one is a necklace project. And so I was completely enthralled with the metal findings in this box. We got this beautiful pendant here. I can zoom in a little bit. We got this beautiful pendant, and we got these beautiful chandelier components. These are 18 karat gold plated brass as well as this. And these are just my favorite things from the box. And these are the things that I will be ordering more of when the box extras come up for sale. I just absolutely just think these are so pretty. And so if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know that one of my tips to jewelry makers is to invest in a really good quality pair of gold filled ear wires, or sterling silver if that's what you love. I happen to love gold, and these are just beautiful, and this here makes them interchangeable. And so I have a couple of pairs of these, and I will link these below. I have some from Potomac Beads, and also Amazon sells some gold filled lever back interchangeable earrings. So what it does is, like, this is the first earring that I made, and what you can do is just keep these in your jewelry box, and then as you get new beads, new findings, our beautiful subscription boxes, you can make your little drops and just easily change them out. So like I have this one already strung on, so just let me turn it the right way. So they're just super easy to change out, and you can just really enjoy all of the boxes you get without needing a new ear wire. And you know, the base metal findings are sometimes hard on our ears, so these are just beautiful. So I'm going to start off with finishing up the earrings just so you can see what I did. Let's do this one first. So this is kind of an unusual little component. I wanted to keep everything really small and dainty. So the only thing that I have pulled from my stash is some of these gold 80 seed beads that you see right here. And you know, just for that little bit of bling, and I just chose those because I thought the gold really matched well with the gold that was in the box. So these are Preciosa. These are 80 metallic gold seed beads. And that's what I'm using. Very inexpensive, and they just add a little pop of something in between. So what I did here is I'm using 22 gauge German style wire. Let me just zoom back out. I'm using 22 gauge German style wire here, and this has an anti-tarnish coating on it. And so what I did is I took my pliers, my favorite bent chain nose pliers, and I just grabbed it at the end and just made a bend. This is so small that I really didn't want a loop or a spiral, and in order to get through the micro faceted garnet beads, I had to go down to 22 gauge wire. 20 gauge wire would not fit through them. And so like regular head pins would not go through them. And because of the incredible faceting and sparkle on those little gemstones, I really wanted to incorporate them in my pattern. So I am just very carefully and strategically folding, and just, it's a little tricky because really I'm just making a bead stopper with this 22 gauge wire. So that is all I did. And then I just put a little pattern of one garnet, and these are harder to string than seed beads. They honestly are, but you know, just there's not that many of them to do. And another one of these, and then for the little, whoops, they're two stuck together. For the little drop, I made the tiniest little loop, really, really tiny loop. So I just did like a normal, simple loop, but it's very small. So just getting a little bit of a bend in there. And then I didn't measure this, but it is a really, really small, really small little loop that I'll be making. And I'm going to stay right on the tip of those pliers and just roll that back. And I found that it was best to kind of leave it open a little bit, just to thread it on to the chandelier component. And that is all I did. And then there is a front and a back to these little components, but that is all I did. It's kind of not really a normal simple loop. I just kind of did it this way to keep everything really small, completely plain. But to me, that little dangle and sparkle is just really worth it. So then for this top component, I took another length of that 22 gauge wire, and this is just a normal wire wrapped loop on both ends. The only thing is you have to remember before you close up the one loop to attach it to the chandelier component. I sometimes start talking and actually forget to do that. So let me do that end first. Just get that pretty little small loop in there, and I'm just going to give myself a tiny bit of space and just thread it right on to this sweet, beautiful component and close that little space. And I think I did 3 wraps. So I want to try to stay consistent. I chose 3 nice, neat coils around. 1, 2, 3. Need to go another half a turn. Sometimes I will do that, just another, it's a little short. Another half turn. There we go. And just trim away that excess as close as possible. And it's a little bit easier to tuck the cut end after you've threaded your pattern on. So the pattern that I've already done on the other earring is one of these very difficult to thread micro faceted garnets. I mean, they do go on this 22 gauge wire nicely, but they are small. And the little facets, you know, make it a little bit tricky to find the holes, but enjoy the process. If I start to feel frustrated with something that I'm working on, I remind myself to enjoy the process. But that's the little pattern. And then these have to, that's the only thing with this particular design is if you can see, this loop right here has to go front to back, like if you're holding it over your mat, perpendicular to your mat. And this loop has to go this way, horizontally to the mat, to go on the front of this ear wire. So if you forget about it when you're doing your wrap, you can very, very easily, you know, turn those loops to be in the right direction. But if you're aware, you might as well do it right to begin with. So if you can see, I'm going to go like make my loop side to side on this one. And we'll stay in that same place on the plier down near the end so that I have a small loop that's, you know, consistent in scale to these other components. And I'll do the same thing here, 3 wraps, so everything matches. Trim off. And now that the beads are on, I can easily tuck my cut in so everything is neat and the same. Let me do this end right there. Beautiful. And now I have my second little earring. So nice to have those interchangeable ear hooks. And these are light as a feather and stunning. I mean, they are just stunning. So that little pair of earrings is done. I love those tiny little petite dangles on the end. It's just so nice. Now this one is quite simple. On this one, I used my 1-step looper. And I'm going to do that again just to keep all of my loops consistent. And I used the 1.5 millimeter size. And I went up on this to 20 gauge wire because I'm using this Malaysia jade rondelle bead for this and the bead caps that came in the box. And so just get that first little bend, and then I like to pull that wire down. And I can see in my tool that my loop is now centered on that wire. And then when I remove the tool, I have a perfect loop. And then I'm just going to thread on a bead cap, one of those rondelle faceted Malaysia jades, another bead cap, and that little component is done. And on this one, the loops can go in the same direction. So I'll put that back in the tool. And you just rest your bead or bead cap right up to the edge of the tool. And then the secret to this is just to close it slowly, and it cuts, and you can take away that piece of wire. And then I like to just pull this down away from the jaws of pull the bead away from the little jaws of the tool. And then while it's still in the tool, I will just take my pliers and just make sure that those loops are lined up, and they are perfect. So for really petite earrings like this, I love the consistency that I can get with that little tool, the 1-step looper. And then these little guys came with this beautiful jump ring already on them, and I'm going to keep it there and use it. And I'm going to just open one end of this component and thread this stunning little charm right on and close it. You can work harden a little bit by opening and closing your pliers. And this is so petite and so beautiful. This little drop is now done and ready for my interchangeable ear wires. So just that fast, 2 pairs of earrings are done. Now, before I move on, I am just going to share one other thing with you that I like to do when I am working with something like these little bead caps. These are just fashion jewelry. They're base metal, and I really, really love the earrings, and I love the gold plated components and metal findings in this box. But I will take a moment to give a little coating of this Permalac Clear Protective Coating. I order this from Potomac Beads, and I love this product. I have tried several other types. There's one that, let's see if I have it behind me. There's one that I bought that I am not in love with. This one I bought, it's called Eternal Jewelry Coat, and this takes forever to dry. I have left things overnight and come back the next morning and it is still not dry. So I'm not in love with it. It takes a very long time to dry, but the Permalac that comes from Potomac Beads is wonderful. I don't know if you can see, it's quite thin, and really if you can polish your nails, you can do this. And so on a piece like this, I will take the time to brush a little coating on those bead caps just to keep them from tarnishing and give them some longevity. And it is like this simple. It is literally that simple. And this particular product dries really fast. I know my hand is in the way, but what I'm doing is holding it this way so that I can brush across the top of this. And then I will just do this to all of these little bead caps. I'm going to do this to the ones that I'm using in the necklace too, and just set it aside to dry. I have a little piece of plastic over here, and I'll just set that aside to dry. And so almost always when I finish filming and my pieces are done, I take a minute to brush this little coating onto my base metal findings so my pieces have longevity. So I just thought that I would share that with you because, you know, it adds to the quality and excellence of our work if I'm going to gift something, or if I'm going to, you know, put it up for sale, then I know that whoever's getting it will have some quality. So I'm going to just leave these little guys here, I guess, so we can look at them. I am just crazy about having these little earrings added to my wardrobe with my little gold-filled ear wires. So the next thing we'll do is move on to the bracelet that I want to make. And to close this bracelet, I'm going to be using this clasp from the box. And I've done most of the components. I did it on 20 gauge wire, the same wire that I'm using. And I've done most of these, I think. We'll see if I need to do an extra one for length. That is a possibility. And if you've been around my channel at all, this will look familiar to you. I found a company at a bead show. It's called puritybeads.com, and they specialize in chain and bead caps and metal spacers and all kinds of findings for jewelry makers, and they have what they call an e-coating on things, and the base metal on their products is brass, or it depends on the chain, but this came in with beautiful coatings. Copper, there is antique bronze, there's gold, there was silver, but everything has an e-coating on it and it doesn't tarnish. And it really lasts a long time. And on top of that, look how beautiful this chain is. These little oval links are not openable. It's a solid link, so when you're using it, you do have to cut and lose a few. But it is embossed with this fabulous little pattern on both sides of the links, and I just love it. I've done necklaces with it, but it occurred to me that I had not done a bracelet with it. And also it matches, the gold just matches beautifully with what we got in this month's box. So my plan is to do like a bead station in between a few links. So I just did simple loops on these silky kind of matte satin beads, and I've just opened the simple loop, and you can see it moves really nice and freely on this link. And so my plan is, I'm not sure if I need to make another one, but I also used my one-step looper to do all of the loops on these beads so that everything is consistent. And so my plan is every third link to add in a bead. So the only sad thing about that is I hate to lose these links. So what I've been doing is cutting it, and instead of wasting it, I will take my my pliers and just open it like a jump ring. And then I save these links. I don't know if I would do like a necklace or a bracelet with them, but for earrings, I could reconnect them and, you know, possibly get earrings out of them. So I am doing that. And then this, with this little design, it is just a simple matter of opening and closing loops. So like any skill level could make this little bracelet. And then I am going to do another 3 links, and I'll just find a little spot. I've been doing my cuts kind of right at the top corner, and try not to use my fingernails as a tool. Try to take care of them. And so I'm just kind of rescuing. I don't like to waste anything, and I really do think that those would be beautiful for earrings. You know, something to make something with them that doesn't take a lot of stress or a lot of pulling. So I'm saving them. And then I'm just going to open and close, and it doesn't matter which side of this chain, because, you know, both sides are embossed and beautiful. And so you could actually do this design with any beads from the box, and you could use the chain in the box to do a more petite version of this. But I have pretty much used up all the chain between my last project and this necklace project. I used every centimeter of chain in this box. So I am going to just continue in this way, getting my 3 links of chain connected to my little bead stations, and then I am going to add on did that not cut? Oh yes, it did. Then I'm going to add on my clasp, and this beautiful classic bracelet will be done. So let me show you what I did. When I got my desired length, I just wanted to be sure that it was correct. So what I did is, just for measuring purposes, I used the links that I had cut and just strung them on here just to see if my measurement was good, and it is. So now I'm going to actually cut links and attach them to these simple loops. I want to make sure that this bracelet is strong. And so now I can just remove these that I just used for measuring purposes. You know, as I said, I'm going to save these for like an earring project. I really wouldn't want to make them use them on a bracelet. It's really even hard to see where I cut. So I do think these would be great for earrings, but I am going to take them off and take off my little clasp, and I will have to lose a couple of links here in order to get my final 2. I do a lot of like really cool designs. I love to play with geometry in my jewelry making, and sometimes I really like to do artistic things that are kind of boutique-y, or, you know, like that you might see in an art gallery. But sometimes it is so great just to go with a classic design that's just like quiet luxury, which is what I consider this. Just bead stations in between stunning gold links and a beautiful, elegant toggle clasp. I mean, to me, things like this are just timeless, and I find that I keep them in my jewelry wardrobe for years to come and reach for them all the time. And so, yeah, that's kind of like, this is not some spectacular, innovative thing, but it's stunning. And this is going to be so pretty. I was thinking that I might want to add a little dangle to it, but when I did my little temporary links to get my measurement, I really, really just love this toggle almost as the focal on the bracelet as well as the closure. It looks so great. And then the way that my length ended up, I have one of those beautiful beads on each side of that toggle. So like for the top of the wrist, I mean, it's pretty all the way around, but that toggle being on the top of my wrist is just stunning. And then this way, all of my links are soldered closed links, and it's a very, very secure design. And this little bracelet is done. And as I said, you could do this design with any beads that you love and any chain that you love and any clasp that you love. But look how beautiful this is. This little flower, I am definitely getting more of these. So this is not only the toggle, the beautiful little flower closure, but I get to enjoy the luxury of this beautiful embossed chain. And this is just timeless. Like, this is a bracelet you could wear every single day with your watch or stack with other, I have other bracelets on too, but just absolutely stunning. I love it. Simple elegance. I'm just thrilled with it. And this is something that I plan to keep in my jewelry wardrobe for a long time to come. And like I said, you could do this with, you know, any beads, any chain, anything that you have in your stash that you love. If you don't get this box, you can totally do that. And I did do the simple loops the same way that I did the loops on this earring. I used my one-step looper with the 1.5 millimeter size, and that way all of my little bead stations on this bracelet are consistent. Okay, let's move on to my last project, which is this gorgeous necklace. So this is a little drop that I created using those same bead caps and the same micro-faceted garnets. Everything is from the box. And I was having a dilemma with this little chandelier component because I believe that it is meant to go this way. This is articulated and this has the little hole right here. But I was really struggling because my design background tells me, like in flower arranging, in doing decorations like on shelves, to work in odd numbers, that it's more pleasing to the eye. But this had 6 little loops. So I was making my beaded chain and looking at it thinking, what can I do to have something in the center? And, you know, creating drops kind of like I did on the earrings. And when I decided on this little component here, I just held it in my hand and realized that it doesn't have to go that way. You can totally turn it this way. And that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave these to look almost like a little lacy edge, and I'm going to connect my chain on either side. So it's going to hang like that. And I have one side of the necklace done. And so I am using the rest of the chain from the box. I had, let me get my ruler out just in case you want to do this project and go by my measurements. I now realize I'm out of the camera view. Let me move everything up so you can see. I had this amount of chain left over from my last necklace project, and all I did is cut it in half and use the whole thing. And so, yeah, I had about, I think I had 16 inches. No, 18 inches. So yeah, I have 9 inches of chain on either side. So if you're actually going to cut yours to do this and you like that length, but as always, the lengths are completely adjustable. And then what I did is create more bead stations, kind of the same idea that I've done on this beautiful little bracelet. And so I created bead stations using the exact same beads, the little seed beads from my stash and the garnets and the rondelles. And I have 16 links of chain in between each bead station. And I did wire wrapped loops on these because it looks nice. You get a little bit more gold presence, but also it has to be 22 gauge wire to go through those micro faceted garnets. And so I'll show you what I did. This is also just a component with pieces from the box. I just made my own little drop, and did a spiral head pin, and I just attached it. And as I said, I have decided this is probably upside down from what most people would do with it, but it makes me a lot happier to have the single drop. And this is just, I mean, I love this chain. It's the classic, again, it's another classic elegance, the beaded chain or rosary chain. And I love bead stations, especially if it's beads that I think are beautiful, which I just was crazy about this box. So let me show you what I did here. Let me get another piece of this 22 gauge wire. You have to just remember not to close your loop before you have done the attaching, because it's the scale of this is quite petite and it's a very delicate, beautiful beaded chain look, but you would have to do really teeny tiny jump rings if you want to use jump rings in between. So I decided to just do my loops, and once I'm at that point, just open that little loop, and I'm going to just start working off of one end of this segment of chain. Just connect that right, just connect it right to the chain, no jump ring. And now at this point, just wrap it and create your pattern, and I'll show you. And I did the same thing. I believe I stuck with 3, sorry, I bumped the light, stuck with 3 wraps. And I like to, if I don't feel that I got my wraps, my coils nice and neat, I love my bent chain nose pliers for this bit, and nice sharp cutters. I keep 2 different cutters on my work table, the ones that you'll see me using for stainless steel chain and when I was cutting the other chain, and then I keep another set that I use for, you know, fine wire like the 22 gauge wire, or when I'm doing these really tiny little wraps and I want precision cuts. So that way I keep one pair really nice and sharp and one pair for cutting thicker, heavier things. So that is attached to my chain, and now I'm just going to continue with this same pattern that I did. Oh, and let me show you this too. This is the little magnetic clasp from last month's bargain bead box, and that is what I'm going to use on this. I'm going to remove the star and the moon and use this. I ordered extras of these when they went up for sale after last month's box, and you know, I tend to do that with bargain bead box. When I get the email that the box extras are available, I go on that website and grab the things that I really loved, things that I know that I would use again and again. And so I did that last month. I got extra clasps, and this month's box will be no exception for me. I think I have to have another one of these beautiful chandelier components. I would probably buy another set of those. I loved those. This beautiful clasp, I definitely would get another one of those. So yeah, and so if you don't subscribe to the box, when you do subscribe, every month you get a coupon code on your packing slip that will give you 30% off the Bead Box Bargains website, the sister site. And the prices are already amazing, and then you take another 30% off, and it is a great resource for jewelry makers. So it is really, really worth it. But as always, if you don't get the box, you can, you know, duplicate designs with your own beads, your own chain, you know, your favorite things. So this is just the very repetitive motion. I'm going to do that exact same thing. I'm going to start my wire wrapped loop, but not do the wraps, not close it. So I have my loop there, and then I am going to count. Let me get this little piece of wire to help me. I am going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I'm going to cut on the 17th link and attach my chain. This is very small chain, but as you can see, it's stainless steel, so it is nice and strong, even though it's really petite. And then I'm going to do that same thing. Oh, you know what? This one can be, that's all right, I'll go ahead, because one of them does not need to be, the one that's going to attach to the component, I could actually do this one right here. And I did want to attach that one with a jump ring. I did this a little bit earlier today and I didn't quite remember what I did. So yes, before I attach the chain, all the rest of them, you will be doing what I just did, attaching the little 16 links of chain before you close the loop. But on this particular one, it's going to be the first connection and it does not need to be added. I am going to use a gold-filled jump ring to connect it. And so that will connect with a jump ring to this side. And then I'm going to repeat that same thing with another piece of that 22 gauge wire. I'm just using my scraps. So that is the technique, is to begin your loop before you do your wraps, closing it, add it to the segment of chain, and then go ahead and close the loop with your 3 wraps, or however many you've chosen. I'm doing 3 across all of my pieces here. So that's my pattern. And once again, start the loop, and before I close it, I'm just going to add it to that segment of chain. And also, if you can see, because this is so petite, this chain is so petite, everything is small, I'm doing my wraps down on the end of my pliers so that my loops on all of these are consistent and very small. And then I'm working off of this length of chain, so I'm just going to thread that on. Need to give myself a little bit of, open it a tiny bit and get the chain in there and close it and do the three wraps. And so this side has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those stations. So I have done 2 here, and I'm going to continue in that way for 3 more stations. And while I do that, I will pause the camera, and when I come back, we will do the final connection of this sweet, elegant little necklace, and we will finish it off together. I finished all 5 of my lovely little bead stations with 16 segments of chain in between each one, and now I am going to do the same thing, use a gold-filled jump ring to attach it to the last loop on this side. So I have that right here, and as I said, if you can open and close a jump ring and do a simple wrapped loop, if you are a complete beginner, you can totally do this project. And I just think this is timeless elegance. I just love the way this little necklace is looking, and I have my length of chain here. And I tend to do my necklaces a little bit long, so I do realize that it's difficult to see on the mat, but as soon as we are finished connecting, I will put some pictures up at the end of the video of all 4 of these pieces. So I took the little star off of this magnetic clasp from last month's box, and on a magnetic clasp there's no right or left, just simply going to add it right to the last link of that chain and close it really, really well. And I love magnetic clasps. Once I get my jewelry pliers away from them, they grab onto the pliers. And this little necklace is completely done. Look at that. I love this little magnetic clasp. It goes beautifully with this stainless steel chain, and I just think this is timeless elegance. I love my little beaded stations on this one, and I have my 2 interchangeable earrings. Look at this one. It's so sweet. And I am just crazy about my bracelet with also the simple beaded station and really featuring this gorgeous flower and vine toggle clasp with this tiny little flower. I mean, this box just makes me so happy. I love it. So I am so thankful that you chose to watch my video today and that you spent time on my beading mat with me. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. It just supports my work, but it doesn't cost you anything or obligate you to anything. And I would just be really grateful if you would do that. Subscribe and tap the bell notification so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And for those of you who are not adept with technology like I am not, if you didn't realize, underneath every video, if you tap more and then sometimes more again, I put links for everything that I think you might have been interested in that description box underneath. Videos that I mentioned, products that I've used, discount codes. And in case any of you are interested in checking out puritybeads.com, where I bought this chain from, I met this gentleman and his company at a bead show, but this is his information. It's simply puritybeads.com. So if it's something that you're interested in, I'm always looking for good materials, and especially when it comes to metal, it's just difficult. So anyway, it's just a source that I discovered and I thought I would share it with you. So I am so thankful that you guys were spending time with me today, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, jewelry making friends.